Hello, team. Welcome back to Sister Wives Crew, the only show that goes deeper, doesn't pull any punches, and delivers to you the stories the network won't show. And believe me, what you are about to hear today will blow the lid off the whole Brown family drama. Because this isn't all about family drama. This isn't about marriage drama. This is about perjury under oath, millions of dollars at stake, and a courtroom battle so firecracker-tastic it had everyone's jaws dropping. The case? Christine and Janelle Brown versus Cody and Robyn Brown. The claims? Emotional abuse, financial fraud, and, shocker of the century, COVID-19 protocol manipulation to break down relationships and further entrench Cody and Robyn's grip on the family. That's right, crew. The very same rules Cody yelled about on television, the ones that he said were safety and protecting the family, were dragged into the bright light of a courtroom. And what emerged wasn't protection. It wasn't sacrifice. It was raw, cold hypocrisy. Our insider spent the day in the gallery, observing as Cody and Robyn's excuse empire finally began to break down. The judge's gavel hit hard, the lawyers faced off, and one witness after another created a canvas of dishonesty so formidable that the jury couldn't bear to look away. But before we dive into the testimony, the hidden papers, and the breakdown that landed Cody in the court's laughingstock column, let's back up. Let's lay the groundwork for how all of this came about, and why COVID was never actually about health, but control. Because if you found the 80,000 nanny pay outrageous, if you found the secret LLC accounts appalling, then hold on to your seat. Because compared to the COVID fiasco, those were just the hors d'oeuvres. This is the tale of courtroom chaos, Cody and Robyn's COVID lies finally exposed. And it all starts with Cody's so-called rules. To comprehend the pandemonium that went down in court, we have to travel back to 2020. The year the pandemic turned the world upside down. You remember it, crew. On live national television, Cody Brown stood firm, holding his role of COVID-19 regulations like they were the 10 Commandments. No going to see friends. No girlfriends. No leaving the house for work. No flying. Wipe groceries down. Shower when you come in. The regulations were so drastic, so restrictive, that they didn't just create tension. They set the match that incinerated the family. Christine and Janelle's children, particularly Gabriel and Garrison, were heartbroken. They pleaded with their father to take a break. They wanted to see him, to be with him, but Cody, with his list, refused. Again and again. Isabel's surgery? Denied. Christmas gatherings? Denied. Birthdays, milestones, family dinners? All denied. The patriarch who espoused love and togetherness became suddenly the keeper of solitude. And yet, this is where it gets dark, folks. Because while Cody was informing Christine and Janelle that their kids were too unsafe to come over, while he was not showing up for his own daughter's surgery out of fear of travel, another reality existed behind closed doors. At Robyn's place, things were quite different. Our insider tells us that while this was going on, Robyn's family, her friends, her siblings, they all were coming and going. They weren't wearing masks. They weren't social distancing. They hugged. They ate together. They laughed. Cody himself was there in the flesh, smiling and at ease. The very rules he employed to shut down Christine and Janelle's children, they didn't apply where Robyn lived. And that, crew, is what the courtroom testimony finally revealed. Witnesses testified to how Cody used those rules, not to defend the family, but to split it. He applied them only when it was advantageous to his agenda. He used them to discipline the wives who resisted, but indulged the one wife who complied. The hypocrisy was overwhelming. And when it was presented before a judge and a jury, it didn't simply make Cody appear guilty. It made him appear to be a liar and manipulator who distorted a crisis that threatened the world into his own personal instrument of domination. And the first witness to pull that curtain back? None other than the ultimate insider, Robyn's niece, Mindy Jessup, the Browns' nanny. The bailiff called her name. The courtroom went still. Cody shifted in his chair, his jaw tight. Robyn clutched her tissue a little tighter. And then she walked in. Mindy Jessup, Robyn's niece, the nanny. The one person who saw everything the cameras didn't. She wasn't dressed for drama. No flashy colors, no over-the-top makeup. Just a simple gray pantsuit, her hair tied back, her face calm but resolute. She looked like what she was. An ordinary young woman thrust into the extraordinary mess of a collapsing empire. She raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and took her seat. Christine and Janelle's lawyer, Ms. Anna Chararma, approached slowly. She didn't need to grandstand. She knew exactly what she had. Courtroom transcript dramatized based on insider reports. Ms. Kararma. Ms. Jessup, can you please tell the court your relationship to the defendants, Cody and Robyn Brown? Mindy Jessup. Robyn is my aunt, and I worked in their household as a nanny from late 2019 to mid-2022, Ms. Kararma. And during that time, you were there almost daily? Mindy Jessup. Yes, 5 to 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. I was there for everything. And that's when Ms. Kararma leaned in with the question everyone had been waiting for. Ms. Kararma. Ms. Jessup. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Cody Brown publicly stated that no one was allowed to visit his home unless they followed his strict rules. Is that what you observed inside Robyn's home? Mindy took a breath, glanced toward Cody, then looked back at the jury. Mindy Jessup. No, that's not what I saw. The room erupted. Cody leaned forward, red-faced, whispering furiously to his attorney. Robyn's hand flew to her mouth, real tears springing to her eyes. And Ms. Kararma? She didn't even blink. Ms. Kararma. Please explain. Mindy Jessup. Robyn's parents were there often. Her sister, her friends. They came in and out. They weren't masked. They weren't quarantining. They shared meals with us. Cody hugged them. They played with the kids. It was normal. Like COVID didn't exist inside that house. Boom. There it was. The lie shattered in a single paragraph of testimony. The very rules Cody had used to cut off Christine, to deny Isabel's surgery, to avoid Janelle's sons, those rules magically didn't exist when it came to Robyn's side of the family. The jurors leaned forward in their seats. They were locked in, because this wasn't just hearsay. This was first-hand testimony from someone who had been inside the house, who had seen it all, day after day. And Cody knew it. His empire of excuses was starting to crack. But Mindy wasn't done. Because what she revealed next didn't just expose hypocrisy. It proved intent. It showed that Cody and Robyn weren't just careless. They were calculating. The jury was already leaning in. Cody was fuming, his face redder by the second. Robyn dabbed at her cheeks, whispering to her lawyer. But Mindy wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Ms. Kararma adjusted her glasses, paused a step, then hit with the next question. Ms. Kararma. Ms. Jessup? Did Cody Brown ever explain why Robyn's family and friends were allowed in the house while Christine and Janelle's children were not? Mindy paused. She knew the weight of her next words. Then she said it. Mindy Jessup. Yes, I overheard Robyn tell Cody, "Honey, my family is careful. We know where they've been. We can trust them. It's not the same as Janelle's boys who are out gallivanting. We can trust our circle." Boom. There it was. The phrase that silenced the room. We can trust our circle. The hypocrisy was undeniable. Cody's so-called safety protocols weren't about COVID at all. They weren't about protecting anyone. They were about exclusion, about control, about creating a closed-off kingdom where only Robyn's people were welcome, and everyone else, even Cody's own kids, were out in the cold. You could feel the shift in the jury. They weren't just hearing words anymore. They were seeing intent, malice, a deliberate choice to cut Christine and Janelle's families out while Robyn's side lived in comfort. And Mindy wasn't just giving the broad strokes. She gave details. She described Robyn's parents arriving in their RV after, traveling cross-country, no quarantine, no masks, straight into the house. She described Robyn's sister's kids running through the living room, sitting on Cody's lap hugging him, while at the very same time, Gabriel and Garrison were being told they couldn't see their dad unless they stopped working and isolated for weeks. She described family dinners with Robyn's relatives, big meals, laughter, hugs, while Janelle's kids were left staring at a silent phone, wondering why their father wouldn't even come by for Christmas. It was devastating, because this wasn't just about health. It was about loyalty. Cody and Robyn had weaponized COVID, using it as a convenient excuse to divide the family and cement their monogamous partnership. Christine and Janelle's lawyer let that testimony hang in the air. She didn't rush. She didn't need to. The jurors' faces said it all. Cody's empire of control was collapsing, not because of outside enemies, but because someone from the inside had finally spoken the truth. But here's the kicker. Because if you think the closed-circle testimony was bad, wait until you hear the private conversations Mindy overheard between Cody and Robyn. Conversations so cold, So manipulative, they left even the judge looking stunned. The jurors were already rattled by the closed circle testimony. But Ms. Tararma wasn't done. She leaned closer to Mindy, her voice steady, almost calm. Ms. Tararma. Ms. Jessup, during your employment with the Browns, did you ever overhear private conversations between Cody and Robyn regarding the other wives or their children? The defense bristled. Cody shook his head violently. His lawyer jumped up. Mr. Croft, defense attorney. Objection, speculation. Judge. Overruled, witness may answer. Mindy took a breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice stayed strong. Mindy Jessup. Yes, I overheard them many times. They weren't private arguments. They were strategy sessions. You could hear a pin drop. Strategy sessions. The jurors leaned in again. Ms. Tararma, can you give the court a specific example? Mindy nodded. Mindy Jessup. Yes. In the fall of 2020, Christine had been calling Cody about Isabel's surgery. She wanted him there. She needed him there. Isabel needed her dad. I was in the kitchen cleaning when I heard them talking in the living room. Cody was pacing. He was angry. He said, she's trying to control me with this surgery. She's not the head of this family, I am. And then Robyn said, she said, I know, honey. It's manipulation. She's using Isabel's pain to trap you. If you give in, they'll all think they can summon you whenever they want. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Crew, can you even imagine? A teenage girl, facing major surgery, crying out for her dad. And her father calls it manipulation. Her stepmother frames it as a trap. And then Mindy delivered the line that shattered Cody's credibility for good. Mindy Jessup. Cody put his hand on his chest and said, You're the only one who understands the burden of my crown. And then he shut his phone off. The room froze. Even the judge blinked, visibly taken aback. The burden of my crown. Cody wasn't talking like a husband. He wasn't even talking like a father. He was talking like a king, one who saw his own family as subjects who had to earn his time. Christine and Janelle's lawyer let it sink in. She didn't add anything. She didn't need to. The jury's faces told the story. They weren't just disgusted. They were outraged. Because this wasn't about COVID anymore. This was about cruelty. About a father who weaponized a pandemic, who chose power over compassion, who chose control over love. And crew, Mindy wasn't finished. Because if dismissing Isabel's surgery as manipulation wasn't enough, she had another conversation to reveal, one that showed how Cody and Robyn plotted to tighten their grip on Janelle by using money as a weapon. The air in the courtroom was heavy. The jury was already shaken by the Isabel testimony. But Ms. Tararma wasn't letting up. She leaned forward, her voice low but firm. Ms. Tararma. Ms. Jessup, you mentioned overhearing other conversations, specifically about Janelle Brown. Can you share with the court what you heard? Mindy nodded slowly. She glanced at Janelle, who sat at the plaintiff's table, her face calm but her eyes shining. Then she turned back to the jury. Mindy Jessup. Yes, there were many times. Cody would come back from meetings with Janelle furious. He'd call her names, say she thought she was the CFO of the family. And Robyn would calm him down, but not really. She would say things like, I'm worried about her independence. It's not healthy for the family structure. Maybe you need to rein in the budget so she has to come to you for things. That way she'll remember you're the patriarch, gasps again. The jurors looked from Cody to Robyn like they'd just been slapped. Crew, do you hear that? This wasn't about love. This wasn't about unity. This was about control. Financial control. Robyn wasn't just a bystander. She was the co-strategist, the architect behind the scenes. And Cody, he listened. Mindy said that after those talks, Cody would restrict money for Janelle's projects. He'd tell her the family fund was empty. He'd refuse to help with the RV. He'd disappear for days, claiming she wasn't being respectful of his leadership. Meanwhile, Mindy testified she was still being paid her $80,000 a year nanny salary. Paid out like clockwork from K&R Holdings LLC, the secret account Cody and Robyn used as their personal piggy bank. So let's pause here, crew. Think about that. Janelle was being told she couldn't afford to build on the land she invested in. Her sons were living in an RV, and yet Cody and Robyn had money. Money to pay Mindy, money for jewelry, money for Robyn's designer clothes. The cruelty wasn't random. It was designed. It was strategy. Christine and Janelle's lawyer let the words hang again. And across the room, Cody was unraveling. his knee bouncing, his jaw clenched, muttering angrily under his breath. Robyn sat frozen, tears streaming, shaking her head like a cornered actress whose performance had finally collapsed. But crew, here's the thing. The money and the manipulation were damning. But Mindy wasn't finished. Because the heart of this trial, the real chaos, wasn't just about finances or power. It was about COVID. And what Mindy revealed next about Cody and Robyn's special rules didn't just confirm hypocrisy. I'd exposed lies so blatant, the jury could no longer see Cody as a strict father. They saw him for what he was, a manipulator who weaponized a pandemic for his own gain. By now, the jury had heard enough to doubt Cody's image. But Ms. Kararma wasn't interested in doubt. She wanted devastation. She wanted to show that Cody's entire COVID narrative wasn't just flawed. It was a complete fabrication. She walked slowly toward Mindy, holding up a sheet of paper. Ms. Kararma. Ms. Jessup, during the time these strict COVID rules were being enforced against Christine and Janelle's children, did you personally witness visitors entering Cody and Robyn Brown's home? The defense lawyer leapt to his feet. Mr. Croft. Objection relevance. Judge, overruled. Witness may answer. Mindy's voice was steady. Mindy Jessup. Yes, many times. Ms. Kararma. Who were these visitors? Mindy Jessup. Robyn's parents, her sister Terillis and her children. Family friends. Even church acquaintances. They came and went freely. No masks, no quarantines, no restrictions, the jury murmured. Cody's face was beet red now, his fists clenching the table. Robyn dabbed furiously at her eyes, mascara running. Ms. Kararma, to your knowledge, were these visitors subjected to the same rules Cody demanded Christine and Janelle's children follow? Mindy Jessup, no, not at all. Gabrielle and Garrison were told they had to quit their jobs to see their father. Isabel's surgery was deemed too dangerous to attend. But Robyn's family? They walked right in. Cody hugged them. They ate meals together. It was normal. The courtroom exploded. Reporters scribbled furiously. Jurors exchanged looks of disgust. Because this wasn't just hypocrisy. It was proof. Proof that Cody's narrative, the one he sold on national TV, the one he used to sever his relationships with his children, was a house of lies. And Mindy didn't stop there. She painted vivid scenes. Robyn's parents arriving in their RV straight into the living room. Robyn's sister's kids chasing Solomon and Ariella around the house, shrieking with laughter. Cody sitting at the table, sharing food and drinks with Robyn's relatives, all while Janelle's boys sat outside the circle, cut off from their father. The cruelty was undeniable. The favoritism undeniable. Ms. Kararma, Ms. Jessup, did Cody ever express concern that these visitors might put his family at risk? Mindy paused, then shook her head. Mindy Jessup, no. In fact, I overheard Robyn reassuring him once. She said, "Honey, my family are careful people. We know where they've been. We can trust our circle. It's not the same as Janelle's boys." And there it was again, our circle. The jurors stiffened. Some actually shook their heads in disbelief. Because what Cody and Robyn had done wasn't just favoritism. It was open betrayal. They'd created an inner circle, a kingdom inside a pandemic, where only their chosen ones had access, while the rest of the family was cast out as dangerous, disloyal, disposable. And if that wasn't enough, the jury was about to see what happened when Cody himself took the stand. Because if Mindy's testimony cracked the empire, Cody's meltdown smashed it into pieces. By the time Cody Brown was called to the stand, the air inside the courtroom felt like it could snap. The jury had heard Mindy's testimony. They had seen the hypocrisy laid bare. All eyes turned to Cody, the man who once presented himself as the patriarch of a sprawling family, the man who demanded loyalty, respect, and obedience. He walked stiffly to the witness chair, his jaw set, his face flushed with anger. The bailiff swore him in, and Cody leaned back, gripping the arms of the chair as if bracing himself for battle. Ms. Kararma wasted no time. She approached slowly, her voice calm, even kind. Ms. Kararma, Mr. Brown, you told this court, and the world, that your COVID rules were strict because you wanted to protect your family. Is that correct? Cody, yes, I had to make hard choices. My priority was safety, Ms. Kararma, safety. And yet, you allowed Robyn's family to visit freely during this period, unmasked, unquarantined, Isn't that true? Cody's face darkened. He shifted in his chair. Cody, that's not the same thing. They were careful. They were part of our inner circle. Ms. Chararma, inner circle. So Christine's children were not part of this circle? Janelle's children were not part of this circle? Cody slammed his palm on the armrest. Cody, they were reckless. Gabriel, Garrison, they were out working, seeing friends, ignoring the rules. They didn't respect me as head of the family. The jury recoiled at his outburst. Even the judge raised a hand for order. But Miss Chararma didn't flinch. She leaned closer. Ms. Chararma, so your own children were denied their father's presence, denied his love, denied his support, while Robyn's family enjoyed dinners, hugs, and visits whenever they pleased. Is that what you're telling this court? Cody's voice cracked as he shouted back. Cody, I did what I had to do. If they wanted access to me, they had to earn it. They had to follow the rules. My time had to be respected. There it was. The mask slipped. The courtroom fell silent as his words echoed. Earn it. My time. Respected. This wasn't about a virus. This wasn't about safety. It was about control. The jury could see it. The reporters could see it. And Christine and Janelle sat stone-faced, finally vindicated as Cody unraveled in front of the world. Robyn buried her face in her hands, sobbing. But even her tears couldn't drown out what had just happened. Cody Brown had admitted it with his own mouth. His COVID rules were never about protection. They were a weapon. And Ms. Chararma wasn't done. Because next, she had the documents, the hard evidence, to prove just how far those lies went. The jury had just watched Cody Brown implode under questioning, but Ms. Chararma knew the golden rule of courtroom drama: never rely on emotion alone. You seal the case with evidence. She turned to the projector, holding up a thick folder of documents. Ms. Chararma. Your Honor, the plaintiffs would like to enter into evidence Exhibit 73, visitor logs and security records from the Brown residence during the period of March 2020 through October 2021. The defense lawyer shot up. Mr. Croft. Objection. These documents were obtained improperly. Judge. Overruled. The witness has already testified to observing these events. The records will be admitted. The lights dimmed as the first page flashed on the screen. A list of dates, times, and visitors. Names that weren't Christine. Weren't Janelle. Weren't their children. Instead, Robyn's parents, her siblings. Friends from Utah, week after week. Month after month. And then came the kicker. Financial records linked to the visits. Receipts from local restaurants, grocery stores, and boutiques, all tied to purchases made before or after these gatherings. All while Cody was publicly preaching about wiping down mail and refusing to attend his daughter's surgery. Fedri's faces hardened. They weren't just hearing words now. They were seeing proof. Then Ms. Chararma dropped the final hammer. Ms. Chararma. Your Honor, Exhibit 74, internal TLC mails subpoenaed from Discovery Communications. The screen changed again. This time, emails between producers and executives. One message read, Cody insists we film his COVID protocols. Wants to highlight his role as protective father. Says it's important for his image. Another email weeks later. Crew has footage of visitors at Robyn's house. Cody asked us to cut it. Says it'll confuse the narrative. The courtroom gasped. Even the judge's eyebrows rose. It was there in black and white. Not only had Cody lied to his family, he had manipulated the show itself, crafting a false image of himself as a selfless protector while secretly breaking the very rules he imposed on others. Cody's head dropped into his hands. Robyn's sobs echoed through the silent chamber. And Christine, Janelle? They sat straight-backed, their eyes locked in the jury, their truth finally documented for the world to see. The Brown family wasn't just fractured. It was exposed. But Ms. Chararma wasn't finished. The last part of her questioning wasn't about money. It wasn't even about hypocrisy. It was about intent. She wanted the jury to see that this wasn't incompetence. It was cruelty by design. Crew, this is the part of the trial where everything shifted. Up until now, we had evidence of hypocrisy. Proof that Cody and Robyn broke their own rules. But in the eyes of the law, hypocrisy isn't enough. To win images, Christine and Janelle needed to show intent. That Cody and Robyn meant to inflict harm. That their so-called protocols weren't just bad judgment, but deliberate cruelty. Ms. Chararma knew this, and she guided the jury there with surgical precision. She asked Mindy to return to the stand. The room went still. Cody stared daggers at her. Robyn clutched her tissue so tightly it nearly tore. Ms. Kararma. Ms. Jessup, in your testimony, you said Cody and Robyn spoke about Christine and Janelle's families during the pandemic. Did they ever discuss the purpose of these restrictions? Mindy took a deep breath. Mindy Jessup. Yes, more than once. The lawyer leaned closer. Can you tell the jury in their own words what Cody and Robyn said? Mindy's voice shook but carried across the room. Mindy Jessup. Cody said, if they want me, they have to earn it. I won't waste my time on people who don't respect me. And Robyn. She told him, you have to make them desperate. That's the only way they'll fall in line. Gasps rippled through the room. Christine and Janelle's lawyers let it hang in the air. Note about safety. Not about health. About control. About bending people until they broke. And then came the most chilling line of all. Mindy Jessup. One night after Cody hung up on Janelle, Robyn said, the longer he stays away, the easier it will be when they're gone. Crew. Silence fell like a hammer. Cody's head jerked up, his face flushed with rage. Robyn's tears turned frantic. The courtroom wasn't looking at a father protecting his family anymore. They were looking at architects of isolation. Two people who used a pandemic as a weapon, not a shield. The jury leaned forward. You could feel it. They weren't just disgusted. They were furious. Christine's eyes brimmed with tears, but for the first time, they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of vindication. The intent was clear. Cody and Robyn had used the COVID rules not to save lives, but to destroy relationships, to cement power, to erase the other wives from the picture once and for all. And with that, Ms. Chararma sat back, her job done. The judge called for a recess, but the courtroom was already buzzing. The narrative had shattered. Cody and Robyn's empire wasn't just cracking. It was collapsing. The final day of the trial felt electric, crew. The courtroom was packed, not a seat left empty. Journalists, fans, even former neighbors crowded in, waiting for the verdict that would decide the fate of Cody and Robyn Brown's empire. But before the jury could deliberate, there were closing arguments. First, the defense. Mr. Croft stood, smoothing his tie, trying to salvage what was left. He painted Cody as a misunderstood man, a father overwhelmed by responsibility, a husband torn between families. He called the COVID rules mistakes of caution, not malice. He begged the jury not to destroy Eamon over misunderstandings in a time of fear, but the words fell flat. The jury's eyes were cold. They'd seen too much. Then Ms. Kararma rose. Crew, her voice filled that room like fire. She walked the jury step by step through the evidence, the visitor logs, the bank statements, the TLC emails. She reminded them of Mindy's testimony, of Cody's own words. If they want me, they have to earn it. She spoke of Robyn's quiet cruelty, whispering that the longer Cody stayed away, the easier it would be when the other wives were gone. This case, she said, is not about a virus. It is about control. It is about lies. And it is about the deliberate destruction of a family. My clients, Christine and Janelle, are not here asking for pity. They are asking for justice. Justice for years of gaslighting. Justice for children denied their father. Justice for lives that were ripped apart under the guise of safety. Cody and Robyn weaponized a pandemic. They turned a health crisis into a weapon of cruelty. And now it is time to hold them accountable. The jury left to deliberate. Hours passed. The tension was unbearable. Cody paced, his face red, muttering under his breath. Robyn sobbed into her hands. Christine and Janelle sat quietly, holding hands, their eyes fixed on the door. And then the jury returned. The foreperson handed the verdict to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. The room went silent. You could hear the shuffle of papers. Cody's knee bounced uncontrollably. Robyn's lips moved in a prayer. The judge's voice rang out. On the matter of emotional distress, we find in favor of the plaintiffs. On the matter of financial fraud, we find in favor of the plaintiffs. On the matter of malicious intent, we find in favor of the plaintiffs. Crew was a clean sweep. Christine and Janelle won. Cody and Robyn lost everything. The courtroom exploded. Gasps, whispers, cries of relief. Cody slammed his fist on the table, yelling about betrayal. Robyn collapsed into tears, whispering, This can't be happening. But Christine, Janelle, they stood. They didn't celebrate. They didn't gloat. They simply hugged, tears streaming down their faces, finally vindicated. And just when you thought it was over, the judge spoke again. In addition to damages awarded, this court orders an investigation into potential perjury and obstruction of justice regarding Cody and Robyn Brown's COVID-19 testimony. The room froze. Even the jury gasped. Cody's face drained of color. Robyn's sobs turned into panicked gasps. This wasn't just about money anymore. This wasn't just about custody or reputation. This was about something bigger. The Browns weren't just losing their empire. They might be facing something far worse. And crew, that's where we leave it. Because the story doesn't end here. If you think this trial was explosive, just wait until you hear what comes next. Crew, the courtroom had already delivered shockwaves. Cody and Robyn lost the case. Their lies, their hypocrisy, their empire, all shattered in front of the world. But just when everyone thought it was over, the judge dropped a bombshell no one saw coming. In addition to damages awarded, the judge said slowly, his voice echoing through the chamber, this court refers the matter of perjury and obstruction of justice to the state prosecutor's office for further investigation. The room went dead silent. Cody froze. His face went pale, his mouth opening but no words coming out. Robyn clutched her chest, gasping like the air had been sucked from her lungs. This wasn't just about losing millions anymore. This wasn't just about humiliation. This was about prison. The cameras zoomed in. Christine and Janelle looked at each other in shock. Mindy Jessup sat stone-faced, her courage now echoing louder than ever. Cody shouted, "This is a witch hunt! You can't do this to me!" His voice cracked, filled with panic. Robyn sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks as she whispered, "They're going to destroy us, Cody. They're really going to destroy us." And that, crew, is where everything changes. Because the financial fallout was only the beginning. The emotional devastation was only the middle. What comes next could end not just the Brown family's reputation, but their freedom. Were the COVID lies just the tip of the iceberg? Did Cody and Robyn commit crimes bigger than anyone realized? And could this be the moment the sister wives' story shifts from reality TV scandal to a criminal case that shocks the entire nation? We'll find out soon. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss what comes next. So smash that like button until it turns blue. Subscribe to Sister Wives Crew and hit that notification bell, because the next chapter in this saga is the most explosive one yet.